You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more.
What up, man? This is your boy Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders podcast. I know we normally talk about comic books, but today we're gonna talk comics, all right? But a comedian, that's right. I mean, homie is a retired weathercaster, but he is a comedian as well. He's a podcaster. He's killing the game. He got a dope special out on Tubi right now called Unassisted Living. Let me introduce this legend, the one, the only Mr. Fritz Coleman, baby. How you doing?
Good to be on with you, Al. You do a great job, my friend.
No, brother, you the man, brother. What's popping? How you feeling today?
Everything is awesome. You know, I'm having a chance to come on here and tell you about my special that I'm very excited about, and whatever else you want to talk about. I was in TV for 40 years. You can't hurt me. Ask me anything.
40 years, Mike. Oh, we got to dive into that whole journey then. So, let's take it back, way back, into those times. Talk about where you were originally from and tell me, what was the first thing in fandom that was your fandom that you ever fell in love with?
That's a good question. Well, I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All right.
The first thing I was a big fan of was R&B music because Philly was sort of a soft version of Motown for its music. You know, they had Gamble and Huff and the Philadelphia International Records. And so the first thing I was a big fan of was R&B music. The first thing I was a fan of on television was stand-up comedy. I love the comics on The Tonight Show, on the all the talk shows.
Wait a minute, Fritz. You telling me that your parents let you stay up late at night to watch the monologue for these?
I didn't say they let me. I said I was able to commandeer the television late at night because they were older and they would be asleep by that time. So I just, and so I would, the Carson show and the Ed Sullivan show and the Merv Griffin show. And this is before cable specials. And you could only get your comics in little 5-minute doses, but I was a big fan of stand-up as I saw it on TV. And then when Johnny Carson was a huge hero of mine. I mean, the guy was so effortless in his ability to make people laugh and so conversational. I thought he was brilliant. And
wait, Fritz, I got to ask you, wait a minute, because this is you as a kid, like digging Johnny Carson. I mean, what was it about that made it so magnetic for you?
I thought that his ability to sit there at that desk and just offhanded have a conversation with Ed or one of his guests and lay out a line that would convulse the audience, the 500 people in his studio there. I thought that was a great bit of power. And then somebody gave me tickets to see George Carlin when I was a junior in high school.
Get the hell out of here.
And
I am jealous, Fritz. You saw George Carlin live.
Yeah, when I was a kid. And let me tell you about this experience. So what city are you coming from?
I'm an OG New Yorker from Brooklyn.
All right. Well, just south of you in Philadelphia, they used to do these summer theaters called the Valley Forge Music Fair, which was this tent that looked like a Cirque du Soleil tent. It held like 3,000 people with a rotating stage. So every summer they would have these, and Carlin was performing at this. And I'd never seen a full stand-up set before. I mean, I saw these little snippets on TV for 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I went and saw this thing, and here's this guy.
Wait, how old were you when you saw this?
I was in whatever, I guess, 16 or 17. I was a junior in high school.
Okay. Wow.
So this guy stood up on stage, and I didn't know the magic behind stand-up. I didn't know that, an hour and a half of stand-up requires a couple of years to get ready. You build it in little blocks and modular units, and you build out an hour and a half. But this guy got up on stage, and he had the ability to use great language, and he had the ability to make it seem like he never said these words before for an hour and a half. And this audience was on the floor. And I said, it was like, honest to God, it was like watching a TV evangelist for me. It was the most power I'd ever seen somebody wield over an audience. And I said, it was like a religious experience for me. I said, oh my God, it changed my life. I never thought I could do it professionally.
Fritz was like this, not because of George, because he saw the light, baby.
Exactly. So that changed my life. I never thought I could do it professionally, but he was always the guy that lit the pilot light in my soul that got me really addicted to stand up. You know.
Hey, yo, but I mean, if someone like that can inspire you, I mean, that's an ultimate legend. To tell you, Fritz, funnily enough, my parents, for some odd reason, you know, there's Puerto Rican parents from the island, son. For some odd reason, they had a George Carlin stand-up record. So I think I beat you listening to Carlin age-wise, because at 8 years old, if you will, I'm listening to Carlin on the record when my parents went home. Because I would read the back, I was like, "Oh my God, he curses!" What is he talking? And as I listened to this, I would crack. Thanks to George Carlin, he definitely put me on the journey to loving.
That's
comedy.
Great. Your parents are Puerto Rican. Are they first generation Puerto Ricans in the United States?
No, I'm the first generation, and actually, no. My brothers are the first generation because I'm the last one born in PR, but they brought me here as a newborn.
But I mean, that's a great testimonial to how universal that guy was. That your parents connected with George Carlin. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's what he was. He was amazing.
Yeah, and I loved reading that with the curses. Like I said, as a kid, I was like, "Ooh, he cursing!" And I would only listen to it when they weren't there, and I even try to put on my little brothers when they were bigger. At least somewhat. Hey, you want to hear something funny?
Yeah. And then Richard Pryor came along, and the doors blew off. You know.
Holy shit! Absolutely. But I think again, everyone is skilled so differently. I mean, Pryor is a storyteller. With an amazing life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Carlin was like so political in his shit that he'll awaken your mind through humor. You know.
Yeah.
Everybody's so different, and that's what I dug. So all right, So I gotta understand something here. So here you are, you're a fan of comedy, you're going up and giving towards comedy, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing you became a weatherman.
I got to tell you that story. That's an interesting story. And incidentally, a real weatherman, like real meteorologists, hate this story, but it's a true story. So I came out here to LA, where I am now, in 1980 to do stand-up. Okay. And I was working the clubs and working at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. And in 1982, I was doing a show at the Comedy Store on Sunset Strip. And in the audience that night, with a friend of mine who worked at NBC, was the news director at Channel 4 and his wife. My friend had brought them to see me perform. And I talked on stage about getting my start in broadcasting in the Navy. I worked for Armed Forces Television, and in Armed Forces Television, they
thank you for your service, brother.
Awesome. Thank you. It was easy. I didn't go to Vietnam. I went to Europe. So I went to Europe, and the most dangerous thing I ever did was drive with a drunk Greek cab driver. There was no guns involved in anything I did in the service.
Do you know how dangerous that is? Those hairy chests, or the gold chains. It's crazy.
That's right. But anyway, I did this show, and I talked on stage about being forced to do the weather in the Navy and not knowing anything about it. It was like a 15, 20-minute set. After the show's over, my friend brings his boss and his boss's wife up to meet me, and his boss says to me, "This is an odd. You got to remember, this is LA. Remember."
Okay.
And the boss says to me, "This is an odd question, but do you have any desire to come to Channel 4 and do some vacation fill-in weather for me? I have a main weather guy that hasn't had a vacation in a year." And I was making $25 a night at the Comedy Store.
Oh, you were like, hell yeah, yo.
I said, "Holy shit, when do you want me to start? And can I please carry your wife to the car? I can't believe this guy's offering me a job."
Like, I'll carry you and your wife to the car.
Exactly. So he said, "Well, first you have to audition." So I auditioned. I got the job. So I did vacation relief for 2 years. And then the guy that had the main weather job during my time left, and I became the main weather guy. And I retired 2 years ago, a month before my 40th anniversary. So I mean, I had the greatest stroke of luck. I didn't set out to be a weatherman, but it was LA. And I said, to be on TV in LA when you're trying to get famous can't be all that bad. So I did the weather, and I was still doing 2 or 3 shows a week, even when I was doing the weather. So it was, I was one of the luckiest guys in show business, without question.
Yo, bro, you got me floored right now. It was like perfect timing, right place,
no, that's
right
exactly
time,
what it
perfect
was.
opportunity. My God, bro.
That's
exactly the perfect example of what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, and you turned that to almost a 40-year career and still doing what you love.
You're right, doing it now. I had 8 appearances on The Tonight Show. I opened for
Wait a minute. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. You hit The Tonight Show. Okay, you were a kid watching this. So what was that like when you
it was unbelievable
opportunity, and with whom? Who was the host at the time?
Well, I was on with Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, Gary.
You got to meet your hero.
Yes, I did. And sometimes it's very scary to meet your hero, because Carson, and you know this being a fan of comedy, was not the warmest guy one-on-one.
From what I understand.
He was great on television, but he was very socially uncomfortable, like having eye contact with you. And
I hate that shit, bro. I went down to his office. I would shit on you if you don't look at me in the eye when I talk to you. I don't.
Yes, like seriously. No, it was very odd. But listen, it was the experience of being on that show, which is for a starting comedian back in those days, it's the single greatest experience you can have. My
brother, that's insane. So how old were you when you hit that plateau of meeting your hero? And at the end of the day, how did you really feel like after the experience? Did he converse with you, or was just your set and you're done? You got to see.
I was not one of those guys who fortunately got invited over to the couch, because my appearance was with Barry Manilow, and all these women were there to see Barry Manilow. And when Barry Manilow wasn't on or talking, all these housefrows in the audience are just out there chatting amongst themselves. They weren't even paying attention to my set. So I survived it, but anyway, it's this white hot moment. The lights are bright. 6 minutes is a flash in time, and you don't even know what you feel about it till a couple of weeks later. But it's for a young comedian. Back in those days when there wasn't so much TV and there weren't specials on television, there wasn't Def Comedy Jam, there wasn't half hour. You know what I mean? There was nothing.
I get it.
And you couldn't do longer form. And so that you had to do that to succeed. So it was huge.
Yeah, bro. Unless you couldn't do longer form unless you were big, unless you were a George, and
that's exactly
a Richard.
Exactly.
A Freddie Prinze even.
Exactly.
You had to be on some crazy level. To get that solo that would actually even be promoted at the time.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, so how did you navigate the journey, as a comedian back then, and doing the weather? I mean, how wild was that? How did you even make the time?
I did the 5
family. What?
Yes, which truthfully is why it was very easy for me to take the job, because I had 2 kids.
Okay.
And I was a beginning comedian. I was what they call a feature comic. The headliner was the guy that maybe had a national reputation, had a couple of Carson sets, and he could dictate his own terms in comedy clubs all around America. But I was a middle act. I came on after the opening act, the MC, and I did 20 minutes, and I could make $500 or $600 a week. Well, when you do 6 nights at $600 and often have to pay for your own transportation, that's no way.
Hell no.
It's no way to take care of kids. So this great weather job presented itself, and I said, I'll have stability for my children. I got to do this. And I was able to do it, but still I did the 5, 6, and 11 o'clock news. I was able to go down to the Improv or the Comedy Store and do a set and come back and do the 11 o'clock news.
Yeah, okay, I got to ask, what was that learning curve like? Because you're a comedian, all of a sudden being tossed onto live television to do weather casting. I mean, what was that learning curve like?
Well, there was a learning curve, but you have to remember in LA, there's no real weather, at least until climate change. From April to October, the forecast
it's hot.
Morning clouds and fog, hazy afternoon sun, high in the low to mid 70s. What was the question? Your whole job is to think up different ways to say the same words every single day for 6 months. So, and back in those days, there wasn't any climate change. They didn't take the weather as seriously. Now, it's a big deal. People are worried about our future. So now you got to have the little AMS seal, the American Meteorological Society seal. You got to have the degree and everything. I couldn't get the job now if I had to. But
wow.
it was just they
Perfect.
wanted me just to have fun and be a personality on the news and throw in a little
Right.
weather. And the weatherman is the least threatening part of a newscast. They just want you to come on there, be Mr. Friendly.
All right, so I gotta ask this. So what was the most memorable then weather forecast?
Well, I'll tell you, the most memorable ones are the few times when it really matters. Like we have bad brush fires out here. So
Okay.
when there's something like that, suddenly the weather matters because wind matters and humidity matters and temperature matters because these firefighters are fighting fires on 120-degree temperatures in those suits. Or you get bad flooding from El Nino storms that come out here and ravage the coastline. So those times when people are really paying attention to what you're saying are fun because it gets your adrenaline going a little bit,
Okay.
And the other times, back in the day, before 10 or 15 years ago, NBC's had the Olympics for many years, like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
They would send our whole news team to the Olympics. Well, 100 people would all go over there, and we do the news for 3 weeks during the Olympics because the number of people watching were off the charts. So I went to the Olympics in Seoul, Korea. I got to go to the Olympics in Atlanta.
Cool.
It was crazy. It was those are the highlights of my career. Those things.
Wonderful. So did you ever kind of blend weather and comedy? And if so, how did you kind of figure that out?
Well, before weather got serious, I mean, now, you got atmospheric rivers and you got stuff kicking ass,
you can't tell comedy now.
yeah. What they wanted me to just, especially if it was a day when the weather wasn't significant, just have fun with it. Throw a little personality in there. You joke around with the anchor people and have some fun. The Al Roker syndrome. But the thing about doing humor on the news is you have to be very aware of what they're saying before you and what they're going to say after you. So if they come out of a shooting or something, you got to be very delicate. But you know what I mean? You can't just lay a line out there. Or if you're going into a drive-by at the end of the weather, you have to be very careful about that. So you have to fit yourself in tastefully into a newscast. But, just...
Do you know this in advance, though?
No. You have to pay attention.
Shit. Whoa, okay.
You have to pay attention.
So it's totally on you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Totally on you. To not be insensitive accidentally.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then it's comedy, folks, and this is the whole thing. How do you feel about that? How comedy is going nowadays, and people trying to attack it? You're offending me, but comedy is supposed to awaken you through humor. I don't see any of. I've never seen offense in comedy personally because again, it awakens you through humor. It's just another avenue to maybe make you pay attention.
Funny, it's funny. There's nothing off limits. If you make it funny, it can be raw, but if it's funny, I'm with you. Everybody talks about Chappelle and giving him all this heat because we're in such a political correct environment now, but Chappelle is funny. And if you step back and allow yourself to look at it, he's got great philosophies about stuff that the whole world's worried about, but people just can't, it's nothing is off limits if it's funny, but I hate to see somebody that wanders down some path about gay people or trans people and it's not funny because then you're at the end of the street all alone. I'm gone. But I know we're in a period where political correctness is over the top. When Jerry Seinfeld said, "I'm no longer doing college campuses because kids on college campuses are too politically correct," and I'm thinking, if they're pissed off at Seinfeld, who's like a glass of milk compared to Dave Chappelle, we're in a bad place right now.
And listen, homie, I'm the father of a 22-year-old young lady. And, and it's funny, I speak to my friends that have kids, around the same age, teens and in their early 20s. Mm-hmm. And it's like, Al, we can't talk like we used to in front. They give us these huff and puffs and looks. I mean, but it's not that we're trying to be funny. It's just, how we grew up, the circumstances, you can't erase the past. Don't try to fucking hide it, and what's real is real. And that's that. And just getting into that, I want people to see the dopeness of your particular news show that you got out right now on Tubi that people could watch for free. I got a trailer. Let me put this baby up on screen. Folks, check this out. Listen, Fritz is the man. Within the first not even 5 minutes, I was already chuckling. I was like, "Oh shit,
Good.
Fritz is out there. This is my type of comedian, old school folks. If you want a good time, this is what you got to see. Check it out."
Every conversation I have includes a medical update. Hey, Bob, how's that new sprinkler system you put in at the house? That's funny. I just got out of the hospital getting my own new sprinkler system. I used to have drip irrigation. Now I have a rainbird. My best friend since elementary school became a vegan. Could not believe it. This guy became a full-on strict vegan. He only eats vegetables now that volunteer to be eaten. Vegetables that carry donor cards in their wallet. And he invites me to his house for a barbecue. I thought, a vegan barbecue. I tried to get out of it. I said, I'd like to, but last Thursday, I tested positive for pork. I'm now using a pill caddy for my medication. A little plastic box of days a week. I look at this thing and I weep. Up until a year ago, I was using it for fishing tackle. Thank you so much for coming tonight, everybody. You were just awesome. Thank you very much. You were amazing. Thank you so much.
That's right. Yo,
Hey, let me first of all, I really appreciate you playing that, Al, but I got to explain where that fits into the comedy. You're talking about political correctness. I'm an older man. I'm in my 70s, right?
Oh, what?
So we go, yeah, oh yeah. I'm old.
Young man, get out of here. You're looking like you're in your 50s, kid. I mean, look at this. We have matching hair.
And I know you got a fuller one than I do, though. But anyway, we thought, my audience, people who are older, are kind of bypassed by the stand-up comedy realm. I mean, they love comedy, but some of the more raw stuff, like the Chappelles or the Chris Rocks, who are my heroes. I think they're the greatest guys on the planet now. But the people in my age group aren't always comfortable with all that stuff all the time, with the language. So I thought, what's missing is comedy that sort of plays to this audience, baby boomers and older. So we went to Tubi and we said, I have a show that's sort of gauged to the older people. I talk about the common experience of getting old, and it's relatively clean. And is there an audience for that? And they said, absolutely. So, I mean, there's so many stand-ups on Netflix, so many on Amazon Prime and Hulu and the others, but this just seemed to be a hole that they thought would be filled by my special. And so far we're doing great.
Well, listen, and not for nothing, Fritz, my father, obviously a very older gentleman, he loves Tubi. So it's like, older folks do dig Tubi very much. So I think you hit the right platform. So tell me about that discovery of Tubi and how, and why you kind of chose them to pitch.
This is relatively new. We've been streaming for about what
up, hey, X Allen?
Hey, Hex Allen. And I never do these live. This is awesome. You get some feedback for what you're doing. But no, we pitched everybody. And Tubi is what they call AVOD, Advertiser Supported Video on Demand. Okay. And when you pitch that group, that business model, you're also pitching Hulu and Peacock. And what you do is when you get it up on one, they see how you're performing, then you get invited to add it to others. So that's what we're hoping will happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, for somebody at my age to have this to look forward to is unbelievable.
And how do you feel, though, doing this at your age? I mean, how did you keep up the energy, man? Because I'm totally inspired by you right now. You're in your 70s. You're looking young. you keep them fresh. That comedy special, you have this amazing energy exuding from yourself. Like, how do you keep that up, brother? What's the secret?
I just having it to look forward to. I have a show tonight, and I'm already juiced about it.
You got a show tonight? Look at this guy. Yeah. He's talking to me right now and about a bounce out jogging. He doesn't even drive, folks. He jogs to the next comedy station.
Well, not quite that bad, but I walk briskly to them.
Brisk walk, folks.
Yeah.
And Hex Allen says he misses you on KN.
Oh, there we go. Fantastic.
Hey, check that
out. Nice.
Well,
you have listeners all over the place, my friend.
Oh yeah, listen. This is what it is. Comic Crusaders spreads all over the world, to talk about and share the experiences of amazing people like you. So,
how long have you been on the air, Alfred? Can I ask you?
So I've been doing this since 2016. I was very shy about it at first because Comic Crusaders existed since 2006.
Yeah.
So it took someone to join the team to tell me, why are you not doing this? I'm like, because I don't know how. He goes, all right, give me 5 minutes. One of those hold my beer type conversations. And because I absorb things really quickly, I learned in no time. And then I just navigated it myself, and myself and my team, I give them the platform as well to create this beautiful content. It's a podcast, a vidcast, to talk to amazing people. Because I know you also have a podcast and do your thing out there, kiddo. So talk about your journey. When did you discover podcasting, and how did you get into the journey?
Well, my co-host is a woman by the name of Louise Palanker, who had a big history in radio. She started a radio company called Premier Radio Networks. They used to syndicate radio shows. They provided content for small and medium market radio stations all over the United States. So she's been in the podcasting world since you could be in the podcasting world. And we've been good friends for like 35 years. And we talk about movies and books and television shows, and we see eye to eye on a lot of this stuff. Right. And so when my contract was up at NBC, I wasn't allowed to do any external stuff like podcasting with other people before my contract was up. As soon as it was up and I retired, she said, come on, let's do a podcast, and we'll just invite people in to talk about the same stuff we talk about all the time. It's called Media Path. We talk about movies and books and other podcasts. We'd love to have you on our podcast. You have
let's do it. Let's talk some comics.
You're so good. You're so good at that. Let's do it. And so now we do it. And I don't know how many people are listening to it. We're growing every week, but I just do it because I love the conversation. I love talking to people I've never talked to before. And it's just a great part of my life. And now that I'm retired, it's something I really look forward to.
So talk to us about the frequency of that drop then, so we could tune in as fans. Like,
it's called Media Path Podcast. We have our own website at mediapathpodcast.com. We're on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, and we're on Apple Podcasts and all these platforms. Wherever you can get your podcast, go to Media Path Podcast. Yesterday, we do them on Tuesdays and they drop Thursdays. Right. Yesterday, we talked to a guy by the name of Ken Levine, who wrote for 5 or 6 of the greatest sitcoms in American history, like MASH, Frasier, Cheers. Everybody Loves Raymond.
Get out.
He was hysterical. I was laughing until I had tears in my eyes. So, and then next week we might interview a politician or a retired singer. We have a whole variety of guests, and it's a blast. It's great to get to know somebody you've never met before, particularly somebody you've been a fan of their work, and it's fun.
Well, absolutely, I get it, man. Because in this side of the world, for me, in pop culture and in comics, speaking to people like Todd McFarlane, for example, the creator of Spawn, Spider-Man artist and all.
Absolutely.
And when we finally see each other at a con, he's the one going, "Hey, Al, how you doing?" And people are looking like, "Who the hell is this guy?"
That's great. But I mean, now because all this stuff is so big, DC and Marvel, you're in your heyday right now with people's enthusiasm for all that stuff.
That and beyond, because there's also the independent community and in independent comics, Fritz. I don't know if you know anything about independent comics, but it's a new world to be found. Like, you don't need to know history. You'll find new heroes, new stories, new narratives, new everything that you can start fresh and feel like, okay, I don't need to buy 3,000 issues of Superman to catch up.
Yeah.
this I'm just starting now, and this is how, from the beginning point. It's the golden age of the independent creator of comic books, in my opinion. And
Wow.
I think that as a fan, if you love pop culture, you might be able to find your hero now and find something you can start fresh and not worry about history, Fritz. Trust you me. All right.
Wow.
It's,
Awesome.
It's wonderful.
Well, maybe I'll get you to send me some links to the websites where I can learn about those. I know nothing about the independent comic world.
Oh, I'll get you into some goodies, kiddo. Then you're gonna send me hate mail. Al, why am I spending my money on all this stuff?
Hold on to them. Maybe they'll make like the second edition of Superman's worth $10,000 or something.
Hey, bro, 10,000 shit. I think the last one sold for almost $1 million and change. So and Spidey's and all that old school stuff. But again, this is what it is in the business. I wish we could sell old school comedian tapes like that. A first edition videotape of the Fritz Coleman debut on stage.
Oh man, I could get
it'll be a rack.
$26 for that on eBay. That'd be unbelievable.
Okay, they're asking right now. Hex wants to know who is that painting in the background, or is it a towel?
It's a really dirty towel. Nice observation. I don't know who the artist is. I'm one of these people who just goes by their gut. I was in a store and I saw that and I said, that is just beautiful, because you can put your own interpretation of it. I don't know what it is, but I'm glad you like it. And I need a background for my gray hair. Essentially, that's what it is.
Oh, you got it matching. It's charcoal with the red and blacks. I see what you're doing there, bro. You matching. You're stylist too. Fritz Coleman is not only a comedian and a weathercaster, folks. He's also a stylist. You can reach out to him at.
I'm a style guru, my friend.
Well, Papa, que sepan, you ain't bullshitting, Fritz. All right, my brother. Are you going to be making any appearances anywhere anytime soon where people could see you live, hang out, spend some dollars, see you in person? Or,
yes.
or what's the next podcast?
Well, I'm doing a lot of I'm doing a lot of one-nighters. I've been around this market for a long time, so every year I get invited to do fundraising events or dinner speaking, and I'm going to do a residency, for lack of a better term, at my favorite theater in Southern California to perform at the El Portal Theater in North Hollywood on Lancashire Boulevard. It's a great theater with great history. It started as a vaudeville theater in the 20s. Then became a movie theater. Now it's a performance space, and it's a blast. I'm going to be there once a month forever, I hope, in perpetuity, as long as I can sell tickets.
But better than getting contracted for an old folks home,
No, seriously.
You might get a rotating audience every week.
Good point. And you can do stuff and they forget you did it. You can do the same set.
You know what I mean? Right? Do the same shit every week. They won't remember. I love this. So you got that? Anything else? And when is the next podcast dropping?
You've been awesome.
Nah, brother. So every Tuesday we can listen to you on the podcast.
We do it Tuesday, and then ours is like yours. Ours is like yours. It's video as well. And my co-host is a documentary filmmaker. So she takes the show and then she post-produces it and puts pictures and all that stuff, video support, and then they drop on Thursday. We record them on Tuesday and they drop on Thursday.
Awesome. And folks, if you want to stay tuned, this is what you got to do. You can follow my big man over here. I've been showing this off throughout. So follow him on Twitter at the Fritz Coleman. All right. And if you want to go to Instagram and Meta, because it's no longer Facebook, we got to get used to that. It's Meta, folks. All right.
Yeah, whatever.
Real Fritz Coleman. And of course, you can visit the amazing website at Fritz Coleman Comedy. Stay tuned. Spend that cheddar. See this man in person. You won't regret it. Yo, Hex Allen says, great to see you guys. He's new to the channel. Thank you for tuning in, Hex. We're always going to be talking to amazing people over here, like Fritz.
Thanks, you guys.
What we do.
Thanks for watching.
All right. So thank you for watching, tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Fritz, thank you so much for your time.
It was awesome.
As a fan of comedy, bro, as a fan of comedy, right? I just want to say to you, thank you. Thank you for sharing your humor, your thoughts, your creativity with us as a whole. As a fan,
thank you.
Truly
you
appreciate you, bro.
Thank you for being a fan and supporting it, Al. You're really good at what you do, and I appreciate the chance to talk to your audience.
Oh, thank you so much, and I can't wait to finish the special because you interrupted me. I had to talk to you. I was watching it. Come on. How dare you? No, I only play. But with that, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to check out Fritz. The links are below. Thank you for checking us out. Make sure to follow us, turn on notifications. That way, when we are live with amazing shows, not just for me, but for my extended family like Johnny Hughes, Freya, No Price Podcast, the Crusader, and all that good stuff, right? Hasta la próxima, mi gente. Wepa!
Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.